Hey guys, tonight we are heading into something colder, louder, and significantly more explosive than usual. A place where sleep is a rumor, comfort is a myth, and your toes are planning their resignation. Welcome to the Battle of the Bulge, the largest and deadliest American land battle of World War II. But forget the documentaries and noble speeches. You are not General Patton charging in with a tank column. You are Private You. Cold, exhausted, underfed, and very replaceable. Before we start, please do the usual things like the video. Maybe subscribe if you enjoy being walked slowly through historical trauma, and drop a comment with where you are watching from and what time it is. It is always fun to know who else is out there, not sleeping with us. Now, dim the lights, maybe get under a blanket, preferably not one made of World War II surplus wool, and let the ambient hum of imaginary mortar fire lull you into a reluctant sense of historical dread. Because tonight, you are not in your bed. You are in Belgium. It is December 1944. You are 19. And the good news is, you have not been shot yet. The bad news is everything else. You have just been deployed to the front lines of one of the coldest winters in European history. The German army has launched a surprise offensive through the Ardennes forest. And you, lucky soul, are smack in the middle of it. You have been issued a rifle that jams when it is too cold, boots that leak when they are too wet, and a uniform that has not been updated since 1942. You thought joining the army might be a ticket to adventure. It turns out it is mostly trench foot, canned meat, and watching your friends try to boil snow without catching fire. And no, there is no warm barracks waiting for you. There is no coffee percolating in the background. There is only snow, trees, and a vague sense that the man next to you is about to start crying and blame it on the wind. So you prepare yourself, because your day in the Battle of the Bulge is about to begin. And unlike in the movies, you do not get dramatic music, a slow-motion hero moment, or a guaranteed return trip. You get freezing air, faulty intelligence, and a high likelihood that your socks are frozen directly to your skin. Congratulations, you have arrived in Belgium. It is December 16th, 1944, and you are now part of one of the most unexpected, poorly timed, and truly miserable military campaigns you never volunteered for, the Battle of the Bulge. It is named not for valor, but for the literal bulge it caused in the Allied front lines. Your unit is a battered fragment of the United States Army that has not encountered a shower or morale in weeks. Your rank is low enough that if anything goes wrong, no one will remember your name. You were told this would be routine hold the line. Keep the roads open. Wait for spring. What they did not tell you is that the German military has unleashed a vast counteroffensive through these forests, complete with tanks, elite SS troops, and more artillery than you have witnessed in your entire time enlisted. Welcome to the front. You are standing ankle-deep in snow that has not melted since the days when Napoleon had a good reputation. The trees loom around you like skeletal sentinels, creaking in the wind like haunted telephone wires. Time here no longer follows any pattern. It might be 4 in the morning, but sunrise and sunset blur into an eternal expanse of colorless cold. Your breath fogs the inside of your helmet liner. Yes, you are wearing your helmet while attempting to sleep, because shrapnel does not take naps. Your hands have become rigid claws, wrapped in the remnants of gloves that should have been replaced months ago. Your fingers are cracked, constantly wet, and stiff with exposure. You have forgotten what it feels like to be dry. You no longer dream of warmth, only of ceasing to steam visibly every time you breathe. Your coat is thin, better suited for a mild winter in Georgia than this frozen wasteland. Your boots, standard issue, have transformed into stiff, sponge-like coffins for your feet. The soles are frozen solid. The leather cracks when you move. There are whispers that other units have received real winter boots. You are not one of them. You belong to the experiment in whether humans can function without toes. You stamp your feet to keep the blood flowing, but it does not work. All it does is disturb the man beside you, who curses softly and tightens his grip on a soaked blanket. Neither of you will sleep again tonight. No one sleeps in this place. You close your eyes and hope that if something explodes, it happens somewhere else. The landscape would be beautiful if it were not trying to kill you. Rolling snow-covered hills, towering forests, silent villages filled with civilians who have forgotten how to smile. It all looks like a postcard until the tanks arrive. Then it looks like a cemetery. You have not washed in 10 days. Your scent is a personal brand now, a mix of old wool, fear, and spoiled food. You have stopped noticing, but the lice have not. They thrive in your hair, your armpits, and the waistband of long underwear that has not been changed since Luxembourg. When the wind rises, it feels personal, like being struck by something with a grudge. It slips through your coat, rushes past your skin, and settles deep in your lungs. It does not just chill. It infiltrates. It climbs inside your ribs and whispers reminders of how long you have been cold. Your lips are cracked. Your cheeks sting. Your nose has frozen and thawed so many times it makes a soft crunch when touched. Breakfast is a frigid can of meat-labeled Spam and a hunk of something that once resembled bread. It now serves better as a blunt object than food. You do not chew it, you simply break it apart with resentment. If there is coffee, it is a lukewarm slush of bitter grounds floating in a dented tin cup. You try not to think about how much better it tastes than last night's dinner. It is not that the meals are terrible. It is that every miserable thing around you makes them worse. Your weapon, the M1 Garand, is a decent rifle until it freezes. The metal sticks to gloves, to skin, to anything warm. You watched one soldier lose a strip of cheek because he forgot and leaned against it. When the clip empties, it releases a bright metallic ping, a lovely sound if it did not immediately alert the enemy that you are out of ammunition. A self-incriminating orchestra of vulnerability. You have heard tales of enemy soldiers dressed as Americans, sneaking past checkpoints, giving false directions, changing road signs. So now, every time someone speaks, you hesitate. Is that the real password? Is this man on your side? You begin to suspect everyone clean-shaven men, fluent speakers, people whose socks are too dry. Paranoia becomes part of your routine. You hear something distant. Maybe it is gunfire. Maybe thunder. Maybe your imagination. Still, you inspect your gear. That is what you do now. You check and recheck. You stare at trees. You wait. You wait for mail. You wait for the snow to worsen. You wait for something to happen. It is not worse than what has already happened. You are still waiting. Command says reinforcements are on the way, that the weather will ease, that they have a strategy. But you have not seen any of that. What you have is snow, fog, and a creeping loss of memory about what color the sky used to be. A man next to you starts coughing. The sound is wet, harsh, and carries more dread than any incoming round. You have stopped keeping track of time. He waves it off like it is nothing. You both know it is probably something. But what are you going to do? There is no medic nearby. There is barely a fire. You adjust your scarf, which is really just a rag someone's mother mailed 2 months ago, and try not to think about the sound of your own lungs making similar noises last night. The latrine, by the way, does not exist. You walk a few yards out, dig a hole, relieve yourself in 10 degrees of wind-chilled misery, and try not to lose a finger while fumbling with your buttons afterward. Hygiene is no longer a practice, but a theory. You wipe with snow, clench your jaw, and shuffle back to the shallow trench you now call home. If fortune favors you, the Germans will not catch you in that particular moment of vulnerability. Your sergeant mutters something as he passes. Stay alert, maybe, or stay alive. He looks like a man who has not blinked since Bastogne. His uniform is soaked below the knees, his cigarette long extinguished, and whatever humor he once had froze and died some time before Christmas. You nod as if you heard. He nods back as if it no longer matters. A plane hums overhead. You tilt your head upward to glimpse it, but it is too high and too fast to identify. It may be friendly, it may not. If it drops something, that is fate's decision. If not, that is a problem for another night. You lower your gaze, huddle deeper into your hole, and let the slow, steady snowfall climb your boots once again. Out here, time loses shape. 1 hour stretches like taffy, while a full day dissolves when nothing explodes. Your notebook lies untouched. There is nothing new to say still here. Still cold, still waiting. Occasionally, you wonder if you have frozen into position. A green and brown statue sculpted out of doubt and discomfort. Then someone calls out, "Fire watch." Of course they do. And of course it is you. You unfold yourself from the trench, stretch until your joints ache, sling your rifle, and step out into the brittle hush of night. Each footstep crunches gently beneath you. The sky is cast in moonlight, mottled by thick clouds that seem to stretch forever. Somewhere beyond the tree line, thousands of other men are doing the same dance, stumbling through shadow and frost, each hoping the other is slower. You remind yourself that it is manageable. Just another hour. Just another patrol. Just a few more degrees colder. You keep moving because stillness means surrender. You keep breathing even though each inhale stings. You keep walking because everyone else does. And if you stop, the snow will win. You hear talk of relocation. A shift in position. Deeper into the forest. Closer to the action. The line is moving. Supplies are late. Tanks are stalled. But orders do not freeze, and bullets certainly do not. Eventually, your watch ends. You stumble back into the trench. Morning is coming, not warmth, not safety, just morning. And somehow, that is enough. There is no roof here, no door, no heater humming in the background. Your barracks is a rectangle dug from frozen earth, with a tool that might as well have been forged from despair. 2 feet wide, maybe 3 feet deep if you are fortunate enough to find soft mud before the freeze set in. It bears an eerie resemblance to a grave, and the longer you stare at it, the more accurate that comparison feels. You share it with another soldier. His name ends in AY. It could be Tommy, or Billy, or Lenny. You stopped asking on the 3rd day. He rarely speaks now. Just sleeps curled in the far corner of the hole, wrapped in all the wool he owns and gripping his rifle like a beloved pet. His snoring resembles an engine on its last mile. Above you, the snow falls in wide, silent flakes. It lands on your helmet, melts, and seeps downward into your collar, only to freeze again and graft itself to your skin. You try brushing it off. It does not matter. The snow always wins. It fills your boots. It hides in your gloves. It sneaks into the folds of your underwear, your meals, and your thoughts. You have stopped hating it. It is part of the unit now. You were issued a canvas shelter, half a tent, half a joke. A triangle of fabric, barely larger than a dish towel, meant to snap together with another soldier's half to form a cramped tent. That requires time and space and ground that is not already frozen solid. Instead, your half hangs loosely over a few sticks above your trench, sagging with snow and the weight of mutual disillusionment. It does not keep anything out. Rain gets in, snow gets in. Occasionally, a heavier thud sounds as something drops on it, and you pray it is not a squirrel again. The walls of your foxhole are lined with anything you could find: rocks, logs, dented tin. You jammed burlap sacks along the edges to prevent cave-ins. But now the place just smells like old potatoes and mechanical grease. Your blanket, if it still qualifies, is a wool rectangle engineered to absorb moisture and repel warmth. You wrap it around your shoulders, around your rifle, around your feet. Sometimes all at once. You are not trying to get comfortable. You are just trying to feel something that is not known. Sleep is not rest. It is hypothermia on pause. You curl onto your side, knees to chest, boots still laced. Removing them is not an option. You know what happens then. Your breath forms misty clouds within the confined space. When the wind picks up, it slashes through the canvas like a blade and smacks you in the face. No matter which way you turn, some part of you is always wet mud, condensation, or your own sweat. There is no dry. There is only less wet. You have tried to improve things. A helmet ledge, an ammo shelf, pine branches for bedding. All of them have frozen into the ground, locked in place like bitter sculptures. This is no longer a shelter. It is a location, a space you occupy, a cold indentation in the world. It floods, too. Not instantly, but in a creeping rise of frigid water that slinks in through unseen cracks. Twice you have woken up submerged to your shins. The first time you panicked. The second time you sighed and rolled over. There is no such thing as dry anymore. Only soaked, damp, or ruined. Your socks are indistinguishable from old rags. You have not seen them dry in over a week. They are folded, matted slabs of mildew and discolored resignation. There is always some kind of noise, even in silence. The snow dulls the world, but not completely. You hear distant artillery, distant enough to ignore, but near enough to remember. You hear coughing, always coughing. Sometimes laughter, sometimes shouting. You hear trees breaking under snow. And sometimes you hear your own heartbeat in the stillness and wonder how loud it would be if a shell landed 10 feet to your left. You try writing letters. It is hopeless. Your pencil is dull. Your fingers are stiff. Your paper is always damp. You scrawl out a few words that begin with reassurances and end with fiction tales of good spirits and hot meals. You try to conjure the smell of your mother's kitchen, but all that comes is the scent of unwashed uniforms, gun oil, and contraband cigarettes smuggled in from Paris. He waves it off like it is nothing. You both know it is probably something. But what are you going to do? There is no medic nearby. There is barely a fire. You adjust your scarf, which is really just a rag someone's mother mailed 2 months ago, and try not to think about your own lungs making similar sounds last night. The latrine, by the way, does not exist. You walk a few yards away, dig a hole, do your business in 10 degrees, and try not to lose a finger while buttoning back up. Hygiene is a theoretical concept. Now you wipe with snow, grit your teeth, and return to your hole in the ground. If you are lucky, the Germans do not catch you with your pants down literally. Your sergeant walks by muttering something about staying alert. He looks like a man who has not blinked since Bastogne. His uniform is soaked from the knees down. His cigarette is out, and his sense of humor froze to death 2 weeks ago. You nod like you heard what he said. He nods back like he did not care anyway. A plane flies overhead. You squint up, but it is too high to tell if it is friendly. It does not matter. If it drops a bomb, it drops a bomb. If it does not, that is tomorrow's problem. You hunker back into your foxhole, pull your collar higher, and let the snow slowly bury your boots again. Time moves strangely out here. An hour feels like a week. A day disappears if nothing explodes. You have stopped writing in your notebook. There is nothing new to say. Still here, still cold, still waiting. At some point, you wonder if you have frozen in place, like some kind of olive drab statue of regret. And just when you think maybe, just maybe, it cannot get worse, someone calls out for fire watch. You draw the short straw. Of course you do. You stand, stretch sort of, and trudge out into the snow again. Rifle over your shoulder. Boots crunching softly in the dark. The sky above is moonlit, cloudy, and vast. Somewhere out there, thousands of men are trying to kill each other in the dark, and you get to be one of them. Still, you tell yourself it is fine. Just a little more cold. Just a few more hours. Just one more patrol. You keep moving because standing still is surrender. You keep breathing even when your lungs protest. You keep going because that is what everyone else is doing. And if you stop, the snow wins tomorrow. You are told you will move positions deeper into the forest, closer to the action. The line is shifting. Supplies are late. Tanks are stuck. But you are going because orders do not freeze. And neither do bullets. So you finish your watch. You return to your frozen dent in the ground. And you wait for morning, not because it brings warmth, but because it is not night anymore. And sometimes that is enough. There is no building, no roof, no door to close, no heater humming quietly in the corner. Your barracks, as they call it, is a foxhole dug by hand in ice, with a shovel that feels like it was designed more for breaking spirits than moving dirt. 2 feet wide, maybe 3 feet deep if you got lucky and hit a patch of soft mud before the frost took over. It is shaped vaguely like a grave, which is ironic only until you realize how accurate that is. You share it with another guy. His name might be Eddie or Freddie or something with a Y at the end. You stopped asking after the 3rd day. He snores like a dying engine and has not spoken a full sentence since his best friend got shipped to a field hospital with pneumonia. He sleeps curled up in the bottom corner of the hole, layered in wool and regret, holding his rifle like it might start purring if he pets it enough. Above you, snow falls in thick, silent clumps. It gathers on your helmet, melts just enough to seep into your collar, and then freezes again, locking itself into your uniform like some sort of punishment from the weather gods. You try brushing it off, but it does not matter. The snow always wins. It is in your boots, your gloves, the folds of your underwear, your food, your thoughts. You have stopped hating it. Now it is just part of a team. You were issued a canvas shelter half. It is a triangle of fabric about the size of a beach towel, designed to be snapped together with another guy's half to form a tiny tent. But tents require time, space, and enough dry ground to pretend you have options. Instead, your shelter half is stretched over a few sticks above your foxhole, sagging under the weight of snow and the crushing knowledge that it will not stop anything. Rain gets in, snow gets in. Occasionally, something larger thuds onto it, and you pray it is not a frozen squirrel falling out of a tree again. The walls of the hole are lined with whatever you could scavenge: logs, rocks, tin cans. You jammed some burlap sacks in there to keep the dirt from caving in, but it mostly just made the whole place smell like damp potatoes and burnt gun oil. Your blanket, if you can even call it that, is more of a wool-scented punishment. It holds moisture like a sponge and warmth like a screen door. You have wrapped it around your feet, your shoulders, your rifle sometimes all at once, trying to trick yourself into feeling something besides numb. Sleeping in the hole is an experience in controlled hypothermia. You lie on your side to conserve heat, knees tucked up, boots still on, because taking them off is a one-way ticket to frostbite. Your breath creates a little cloud inside the tiny space. And when the wind picks up, it just whips right through the canvas and slaps you across the face. No matter how you position yourself, part of you is always touching something wet. The ground, your gear, your own sweat. There is no dry. There is only less wet. You have tried to make it more livable. You carved out a ledge to store your helmet, dug a little shelf for extra ammo, arranged some pine branches at the bottom so you are not lying directly on frozen mud. But they have all frozen solid into the ground, fused together like part of a primitive art installation made entirely out of things that hate you. It is not a foxhole anymore. It is just where you exist, now a rectangular imprint of despair, softened slightly by layers of snow and human body heat. It floods when it rains. Not all at once, just a slow, creeping rise of icy slush that seeps in through the cracks. You have woken up twice with your legs submerged. The first time you panicked. The second time you just sighed and rolled over. There is no such thing as dry gear anymore, just degrees of soaking. Your socks have not been properly wrung out since last week. You do not remember what they looked like before they became permanently folded canvases of mildew and threadbare resignation. There is always noise, even when it is quiet. The snow muffles a lot, but you still hear the distant thud of artillery. Not close enough to worry you, not far enough to forget. Sometimes you hear muffled yelling from another foxhole. Sometimes laughter, usually coughing, always coughing. You hear branches crack under the weight of snow. You hear your own heart beating when it gets too quiet, and you wonder how loud it would sound if a shell landed 10 feet to your left. Barter economy in its purest form. You look around and see everyone else doing the same thing, hunched over their tins, eating in silence. Some of the men are laughing, but it is that hollow, automatic kind of laugh, the kind that covers up the fact that you cannot feel your feet, and someone just down the line lost 3 fingers to frostbite. The man across from you is chewing with his eyes closed, not because he is savoring anything, but because if he opens them, he might have to look at what he is eating. Breakfast does not last long. There is not much to eat, and no one wants to linger. You toss the empty can into a growing pile near the foxhole. It is the army's version of a trash heap. Perhaps it will be picked up later, or perhaps it will never be. You wipe your spoon on your pant leg. Clean enough. The grease just adds to the insulation. Someone pulls out a cigarette. They all smell the same, like damp paper and cheap tobacco. But it is the closest thing to an after-meal ritual that anyone has left. You take a drag. It burns the back of your throat in a way that has become familiar. It is warm, sort of briefly, and then it is gone. You flick the ash into the snow and watch it vanish without a trace. Nobody talks much after breakfast. What would anyone even say? That was the best meat-adjacent slop I have eaten out of a dented tin can this week. No one is pretending anymore. Breakfast is not a morale booster. It is just a pause between suffering and more suffering. A biological necessity that reminds you that you are still here, still cold, and still capable of feeling slightly worse than yesterday. You pack your gear carefully, slowly. The wrappers go into your bag, the spoon into your pocket, the canteen tucked back under your coat, where it will at least have a chance of staying liquid for another few hours. Your rifle is next. You wipe the condensation off the bolt, eject the clip, reload it, and sling it back over your shoulder. You do not need orders. You already know what is coming. Another march, another patrol, another foxhole waiting somewhere else in the trees. The air is sharper now. The kind of cold that cuts into your throat when you breathe too fast. You can feel your stomach beginning to protest the meal. Not violently, just enough to remind you that your digestive system has filed a formal complaint and does not expect a resolution. You glance down at the remains of your breakfast. The crusted edge of the can, a few crumbs on your lap, the metallic taste still clinging to your teeth. And you try to remember what real food tastes like. Pancakes, bacon, toast with butter, eggs that do not jiggle, coffee that does not crunch. But memory is dangerous out here. It gets in the way of the next thing. And there is always a next thing. So, you adjust your helmet, tighten your scarf, and start moving. Because breakfast is over. The cold is not. And the forest does not care how full you are. There is no real undressing and redressing in the Ardennes. You sleep in your uniform. You eat in your uniform. You dig holes in it. You bleed in it. Eventually, you will be buried in it. The idea of getting dressed implies a fresh start, maybe even a change of clothes. That is not what is happening here. You are layering misery on top of older, smellier misery, and pretending it still counts as preparation. You begin the process by peeling back your blanket, which has frozen into a rigid half circle shaped exactly like your body. Every movement sends a small avalanche of snow into the foxhole. You are already shivering, and the wind has not even hit you yet. Your fingers are stiff. Your knees crack. Your shoulders ache from sleeping in a fetal position, designed more for containment than comfort. Your base layer is long underwear. Technically, it was white once. Maybe. Now it is stained with weeks of sweat, soot, dirt, and whatever bacteria have decided to claim your thighs as permanent residence. You have not removed it in days, perhaps weeks. The fabric is rough, tight in the wrong places, and loose in others. The elastic gave up some time around Bastogne, but it is warm. Not because it is well insulated, but because it is holding in about a gallon of trapped body heat and regret. Over that goes your wool shirt. It is itchy. It is heavy. It smells like an old couch dragged through a fireplace. You have stopped scratching at the seams because your skin gave up and went numb. The sweat has frozen into tiny salt crystals in the folds of the collar. You brush some of it off, mostly out of habit. No one here cares what you look like. The lice certainly do not. Then comes the field jacket. Standard issue. Olive drab stuffed with something that used to be insulation before it got wet for the 5th time and flattened into a cold sponge. The zipper does not work anymore. The buttons mostly do. You skip the top 2 because you cannot get them closed with gloves on, and your fingers are too slow to manage the job. You shove a dirty scarf down the neck hole and let it stick out like a limp piece of surrender. Your pants are wool, same as the shirt. Stiff in the knees, crusty at the cuffs, and worn so thin on the seat that sitting down feels like placing your rear end on a frozen skillet. They sag in the back because the drawstring broke, and your belt, if you even have one, was made for someone with a waist 3 sizes smaller and a will to live. You have cinched it together with a piece of signal wire you pulled off a wrecked Jeep. It is holding for now. Socks are a disaster. You are wearing 2 pairs, both damp. One has a hole near the toe that is spreading like a slow-motion avalanche. You try rotating them every night. Not washing, just rotating. Left foot to right, inside out, flip them around. It does not help. It just gives you the illusion of effort. Your toes feel like frozen sausages stuffed into wet burlap. You wiggle them while you get dressed, just to make sure they are still attached. Now, the boots. Army-issue leather combat boots. In theory, designed for all terrain. In practice, designed to collect moisture and hold it hostage. The soles are separating at the heel. The laces are stiff and caked with mud that long ago turned to concrete. You cannot get them fully tight because the eyelets are bent, and you have had to rethread the lace 3 times with the end of a paperclip. Once they are on, your feet feel heavier than your rifle. The leather creaks when you move, not because it is well worn, but because it is pleading for release. Gloves are a joke. You had mittens once wool. They got soaked the first night. Now they live at the bottom of your pack, frozen into a clump that you are afraid might bite you. The gloves you are using now came from someone who froze to death 2 foxholes over. You did not ask. They did not need them anymore. They are fingerless. The fabric is threadbare. Your fingertips are exposed to the wind, the snow, and the vague sensation that you are becoming part of the landscape. You have wrapped a strip of cloth around your ears. Not because it helps, but because the wind keeps trying to take the top of your head with it. Your helmet goes on last. It is dented from a fall 2 days ago. The chin strap is too tight, but you wear it anyway. You do not want to be the man who catches shrapnel because he wanted a looser fit. The liner smells like old soap and new sweat. It rattles slightly when you move your head. You pretend not to notice. There is no mirror, no inspection, no dressing room banter. You are getting dressed in a hole, surrounded by other men who are doing the same thing. All of you pretending this is normal. No one talks unless it is absolutely necessary. Someone coughs. Someone spits into the snow. Someone grunts and says their boots will not go on. Someone else says, then die barefoot. Nobody laughs. You do not change clothes. You add to them. You? Barter economy in its purest form. You look around and see everyone else doing the same thing, hunched over their tins, eating in silence. Some of the men are laughing, but it is that hollow, automatic kind of laugh. The kind that covers up the fact that you cannot feel your feet, and someone just down the line lost 3 fingers to frostbite. The man across from you is chewing with his eyes closed, not because he is savoring anything, but because if he opens them, he might have to look at what he is eating. You layer more misery on top of old misery and hope your body stops complaining. There is no backup uniform. If something rips, you patch it with tape or prayer. If something freezes, you wear it anyway. Laundry is a myth. Soap is a luxury. Your entire wardrobe fits into one pack that you have not opened since the last time the sun came out. Everything smells. You smell. The guys next to you smell. The foxhole smells. It is a mixture of wet wool, mold, unwashed skin, gunpowder, grease, and something sweet that might be rot. You stop trying to place it. Your nose barely works in this cold anyway. You do a final check. Ammo pouch is full. Canteen secured. Knife in place. Rifle slung across your chest, already frosting over near the barrel. You flex your hands. You adjust your helmet. You take one slow, bitter breath. You are dressed not for success, not for warmth, not even for survival. You are dressed for endurance, for slow grinding movement through ice and snow and trees and whatever waits on the other side of that ridge line. You are dressed for a war that does not care how prepared you are. And now someone is yelling your name, probably. It is hard to hear over the wind. Time to move. Your feet crunch in the snow. Your coat catches on a branch. Your gloves soak up another handful of slush. It is not even dawn yet. You are sweating already and freezing at the same time. So you walk not because you want to, but because standing still means the cold gets to win again. The army did not assign you roommates. Not officially, but somewhere between digging your first foxhole and losing your 3rd pair of socks to frostbite, they moved in anyway, quietly, persistently, without permission or paperwork. And now they are here, full-time tenants. Welcome to the infestation. First, the lice. They are not shy. They do not hide. They have colonized your body like it is Normandy, and they are winning. You feel them under your collar, behind your ears, in the seams of your underwear. At night, they throw a party in your armpits. During the day, they migrate, looking for fresh real estate between your shoulders and the back of your knees. They do not bite and leave. They bite and settle down, raise a family, and invite their extended relatives. You have stopped scratching because it does not do anything. All it does is remind you that your skin has become a buffet line. Everyone has them. The new guys pretend they do not, but after 3 days in the snow with no change of clothes, their pride gives out. You see them swatting, digging, muttering to themselves. Eventually, you just accept it. The lice are not guests. They are part of your unit. The lousing stations exist supposedly. You have heard rumors of powder, of hot water, of someone with actual tweezers. You have never seen one. Your solution is simple. Slap at your collar every few minutes. Hope for the best. And if you catch one, crush it between your fingers like a tiny declaration of war. It is the closest thing to a victory you will get today. Then there are the rats. Big ones, city rats. Trained in urban warfare, and not the least bit afraid of you. They move through the trenches like they own them. Quick, silent, brazen. You have woken up to one sitting on your boot, chewing through your ration tin like it is Christmas morning. Another time, you rolled over and felt one dart across your arm like it was late for a meeting. They steal whatever is not nailed down: food, bandages, cigarettes. One guy swore He saw one running off with someone's glove. You do not question it. The rats here are not just pests. They are survivors, same as you, except smarter. They know where the bodies are buried, because sometimes they help do the burying. They nibble on fingers, noses, open wounds. They know you will not move fast enough to stop them. And they are right. You try to scare them off, bang your mess kit, throw a rock, urinate in their path. It does not work. They look at you like you are the one who needs to find a new place to sleep. You have even named one, or maybe several, by the same name. Sergeant Whiskers. A running joke. Kind of. You act like it is funny, but deep down you know he has probably seen more of this war than you have. The lice drain your will to keep itching. The rats steal your food, your sleep, and whatever boundary between human and animal you thought existed. But neither compares to the trees. Not the nice kind with shade and squirrels. The Ardennes forest is a whole different thing. Dense, endless, and full of death. At first, you thought the trees might be an advantage. Cover from enemy fire. Shelter from the wind. A little peace. But then the artillery started, and he learned about tree bursts. When a shell hits the ground, it explodes sideways. Shrapnel flies. Dirt kicks up. Maybe a few guys lose hearing or worse. But when a shell hits a tree or explodes just above one, it turns the whole thing into a fragmentation grenade. The wood shreds into splinters the size of pencils and sharper than your bayonet. They rain down like jagged hail. They do not aim. They just fall. Through helmets, through shoulders, through whatever unlucky patch of foxhole you happen to be crouching in. You cannot hear them coming. 1 second you are squatting behind a log. The next you are wiping someone's blood off your cheek and realizing it is not yours. The tree did not explode. It got hit, but the explosion turned it into shrapnel. You flinch every time something cracks overhead. Now a branch snaps under the weight of snow and you duck. A bird takes off. You dive. It never stops. The ground around your hole is littered with debris. Branches broken off like brittle bones. Chunks of bark lying in piles. The trunks are scarred with black scorch marks and deep gouges. Some trees have split completely not from age, but from blast pressure. You once saw a guy run into a tree for cover. Seconds later, the tree was gone. So was he. They do not talk about it in the briefings. There is no "How to Survive the Forest Turning on You" section in the manual. All you get is a shovel, a helmet, and a hope that today's barrage misses your particular tree. At night, it is worse. You cannot see anything. Every gust of wind sounds like a branch breaking. Every crack of ice sounds like incoming fire. You try to sleep, but even if you manage, the dreams are loud. Waking up does not help. The trees loom above you, shifting in the darkness, waiting. The lice do not sleep. The rats do not care. And the trees do not stop cracking. You are not afraid of the enemy. Not really. The Germans are out there, sure, but you can shoot at them. You can hide. You can pray for artillery support. What you cannot fight are the things living in your clothes, the things gnawing at your supplies, the things falling from the sky in wooden spinning death shards. You have not changed socks in 4 days. You have not stopped itching in 5. You have killed more rodents than you have seen enemy soldiers. And you cannot walk more than 20 feet without looking up to make sure the canopy above you does not decide to fall. This is not war like the poster showed. There is no glory here. No flags waving in the wind. Just you curled in a muddy pit, flinching every time the snow rustles and wondering if that sound was a rat, a lice colony shift change, or the start of another artillery barrage about to turn your surroundings into a wooden meat grinder. You pull your scarf up, not for warmth, but to keep your breath from fogging up and giving your position away. Your glove twitches involuntarily. Another bite. You ignore it. You have gotten good at that. No one trained you for this. Not really. They trained you to march, to shoot, to obey. They did not train you for what it feels like when the place you are supposed to be defending is trying to eat you alive, one bite, one scratch, one splinter at a time, and tomorrow it will all still be here. The lice, the rats, the trees waiting. You have stopped wondering when it ends. Now you just wonder who is next. You notice it when your boots begin to feel soft. Not on the outside, but inside. As if the soles are melting, but they are not. What is melting is your sense of normal. You take a step, and it squishes, not loudly. Just enough to remind you that the socks you have not changed in a week are now part sponge, part biohazard. You think about wringing them out. You do not. The water that would come out would not be clean. It would be classified. Trench foot is not an injury. It is a betrayal. Your own feet turn against you slowly, silently, without asking permission. At first, it is only discomfort. Damp toes, a little cold. Then the tingling starts. Pins and needles. You wiggle your foot trying to shake it off. You stomp. You slap your boot. Nothing. That is the first sign. The second is when you realize your foot has stopped hurting because it can no longer feel anything at all. The moisture does not come just from rain. It comes from everything. Melting snow, sweat, slush leaking through seams in boots that were never designed for winter. You have tried stuffing extra rags in there. You have tried wrapping your feet in whatever dry cloth you could scrounge up, if you could even find any. It did not help. If anything, it just made the wetness warmer. Which is worse, because now your foot thinks it is safe. It is not. At night, you might take your boots off. Maybe if you are feeling brave. If you think there will be time to dry them by morning. If there is not a patrol scheduled. If the rats are not feeling aggressive. You peel them off slowly. The leather sticks to your socks like it knows what is coming. The smell hits first. Like mold, vinegar, and regret. Your socks come off in pieces. The fabric clings to the skin, fusing slightly with the upper layer of what used to be a foot and is now a half-cooked memory. The skin underneath is pale, puffy, wrinkled like something that drowned and came back just to disappoint you. You press a finger into your heel. The indent stays too long. That is not good. You dry them off. Not with a towel. You have not seen one of those since the last functioning shower 3 countries ago. You use a piece of your shirt, a corner of a blanket, a newspaper clipping someone once wrapped around a chocolate bar. You dab, not rub. Rubbing makes the skin slough off like boiled chicken. You learned that the hard way. Some guys have it worse. You have seen them hobble over to the medic, with feet twice their normal size, wrapped in whatever they could find. One guy had newspaper in his boots. Another had cut strips from his tent cover. It did not help. By the time they reach the aid station, assuming they even get there, their toes are black, not bruised, dead, frozen and rotting at the same time. If they are lucky, they get sent back. If not, the medic pulls the sock off and half their skin comes with it. There is no real treatment out here. The manual says to keep feet dry, change socks often, massage them. That is adorable. You have one extra pair of socks buried in the bottom of your pack, and they are already damp from the steam of your body heat. Massaging requires both hands, privacy, and the luxury of not holding a rifle. And the ground has not been dry since September. You try drying your boots by the fire. If there even is a fire, you prop them up on sticks. You watch the steam rise. Smell the leather begin to burn. Someone warns you not to get them too close. Melt the sole and you are done. You pull them back, sigh, and slip them back on. Still wet, still heavy, still yours. You hear guys talking about amputation. Not as a joke, as a backup plan. If it gets worse, I will lose the foot. One says like he is scheduling a haircut. The others nod. No shock, no sympathy, just facts. You get trench foot bad enough, and the choices narrow quickly. You cannot march. You cannot fight. You cannot run. And if you cannot do any of that, you are either getting sent home or getting left behind. There is no glamorous way to deal with it. No hero story about the guy who powered through gangrenous feet and saved his unit. If your toes go, you go. And no one blames you. Not really. They just do not want to see it. It reminds them of what is waiting at the bottom of their own boots. Some officers issue sock rotation schedules. You laugh. Then you realize they are serious. Change socks every 12 hours, they say. As if that will fix the weather, the mud, and the military's idea of winter gear. You nod, then go back to wrapping your toes in the same shirt sleeve you used yesterday. At some point, your foot starts leaking. Not a lot. Just a slow, warm ooze that soaks through the boot lining and adds another layer of damp to the already soaked interior. You press your hand against the top of the boot. It squashes. You stop pressing. The worst part is not the pain. It is the smell. It sticks to you, lingers in your foxhole, clings to your sleeping bag. You dream about it. That sour, fungal rot that creeps up through your socks, into your nose, into your thoughts. You wonder if you will ever stop smelling it, even after the war, even if you make it out with all 10 toes still attached. Someone in your unit jokes that this is the Army's version of a spa. Mud baths, constant steam, organic exfoliation. You do not laugh. Not because it is not funny, but because you are busy squeezing half a cup of water out of your heel and wondering if that spot on your sock is blood pus or just another strange consequence of sleeping with your feet against a frozen log. They tell you to keep moving. That circulation helps. So you do. You walk. You trudge. You squish your way through snow, slush, and every bodily warning sign that says stop. You do not stop. You cannot. Because stopping means letting the rot settle in. Means letting the cold dig deeper. Means you will not get back up. And so you walk on feet that burn when they should be numb. On toes that no longer report back when you wiggle them. On soles that feel like they are padded with wet cardboard and broken glass. You know what is happening. You know where it leads. But you lace the boots tighter, not because it helps, but because it is all you can do. You grip your rifle. You shoulder your pack. You limp toward whatever comes next. Because trench foot is not traumatic. It is not a sudden explosion or a gunshot wound. It is slow, quiet, inevitable. A silent agreement between your body and the weather that you probably will not be needing that pinky toe much longer. And when someone finally asks how your feet are doing, you lie. Of course you do. You say fine. You say just damp. You say I have had worse. Even though you have not. Even though you are not sure you will be walking the same when this is over, assuming you are walking at all. But that is for later. For now, you just have to make it to lunch if your boots let you. Your rifle is supposed to be your lifeline. That is what they told you back in training. This is your best friend. Take care of it, and it will take care of you. You believed that once, back when you were still shooting at paper targets and pretending it mattered. Now your rifle is more like a nervous roommate. Temperamental, always cold, and increasingly unreliable under pressure. You carry the M1 Garand. Standard issue. 8-round clip. Semi-automatic. Feeds from the top. Looks great in posters. Works fine in a museum. Out here, it is a gamble. The metal freezes in the cold. The action jams when snow gets inside. The oil stiffens like candle wax. And if you are not careful, the bolt snaps shut on your thumb. A little gift from the Army known as Garand thumb. It is fast, sharp, humiliating, and always perfectly timed right before someone starts shooting at you. Every time you move, you check it. Not because you expect it to work, but because you are afraid it will not. You clear the chamber, rack the slide, tap the stock against your leg to shake out any ice, and then you do it again an hour later. Because paranoia is the only thing more consistent than frostbite. Ammo comes in cardboard boxes that fall apart when they get wet, which is always. The clips rust, the rounds stick. Sometimes you try to load them with gloves on. That is funny. The bullets slip from your fingers, land in the snow, and vanish like they never existed. You spend the next 5 minutes digging them out, while cursing everything from the war to the concept of fingers. You have grenades, too. A few, anyway. Baseball-sized with little metal spoons on the side. Pull the pin, release the lever, throw. It sounds simple. It is not. The pin jams if it is bent. The fuse sometimes burns too fast. And the last guy who tried throwing one from behind a snowbank did not make it past. Pull the pin. Now there is a black mark in the snow where his foxhole used to be, and nobody wants to talk about it. There is also the bazooka. Not yours, but you have seen it in action. A big dumb tube that fires a rocket the size of your arm. In theory, it is great against tanks. In practice, it backfires if you are too cold, too wet, or just too unlucky. One misfire, and the only thing you are disabling is your own hearing. It takes 2 guys to carry it, and both of them usually wish they were doing anything else. You have got a sidearm, maybe a .45 if you are an officer. If you are not, do not worry. You will find one eventually, probably next to someone who is no longer using it. The pistol is supposed to be your last line of defense, but unless you are within 6 feet of your target, and they are kind enough to stand still, it is mostly psychological. You point it, you shoot, you hope. Or maybe you just wave it around to feel like you are not totally defenseless. Maintenance is a full-time job you do part-time, usually while squatting in a foxhole and pretending you are not about to get shelled. You have got a rag, a tiny bottle of oil, and whatever piece of old t-shirt you have not already sacrificed to cleaning mud off your boots. You strip the rifle down by memory, swabbing the barrel while muttering under your breath. It does not help. The moisture creeps back in the second you finish. The machine guns are loud, heavy, and carried by a guy you do not envy. The tripod alone weighs more than your entire pack. And when they fire, they draw attention. Artillery does not like machine guns. The Germans do not like machine guns. Even the trees seem to get nervous. The guy manning it is usually exhausted, deaf, and sweating through 4 layers of winter gear while trying to reload without catching frostbite between belts. And then there are the ammo shortages. Always. You are told to conserve rounds. Do not waste shots. Make every bullet count. It is easy advice to give from behind a desk. Harder to follow when someone is shooting at your head and your rifle decides, now is a good time to act like a decorative stick. Resupply is inconsistent at best. Maybe a crate comes in tonight. Maybe it does not. If it does, you dig through it like a raccoon in a dumpster, hoping for dry rounds, a new clip, maybe even a cleaning kit that has not already been cannibalized by the last 10 guys who opened it. You trade cigarettes for spare. 30-06 rounds. You hoard what you can. You beg, borrow, or steal from whatever pile of gear gets left behind after the next patrol fails to check in. You have seen what happens when someone runs dry. The look on their face when they pull the trigger and nothing happens. The moment of silence that follows is not dramatic, just quiet, resigned, like they knew this day would come. They reach for another clip. It is not there. They curse, duck, run, pray. Not necessarily in that order. You try to avoid that moment. You double-check your belt, tap every pouch, count clips like a gambler counting cards. It still does not guarantee anything, because when the shooting starts, all your careful planning disappears. You fire. You duck. You reload. You jam a clip in upside down and swear until your fingers stop shaking. Nothing is reliable out here. Not the rifle. Not the ammo. Not even the guy next to you who is still figuring out which end of his Thompson points forward. You have seen more gun malfunctions than actual kills. You have seen rounds misfire, eject into the snow, or disappear into the ether like they were never real. You have seen guns freeze shut. You have seen them explode. You have seen them dropped, picked, lost, stolen, and once, somehow, boiled. It is not that the weapons are bad. They are just tired. Same as you. Dragged through too many days of cold, soaked in mud, jammed with pine needles and ash and blood, and everything else the Ardennes has to offer. They were not built for this. Neither were you. But you keep cleaning them. You keep loading the clips. You keep oiling the bolts. Because the alternative is standing out here with nothing but a shovel and a bad attitude. And there is only so much damage you can do with sarcasm. So you check the chamber. You pat your pouches. You sling the rifle back over your shoulder, knowing full well it might let you down when you need it most. And you keep walking. Because the Germans are not waiting for your equipment to feel ready. They have already got theirs loaded. You find out during a patrol, or maybe during a prisoner transfer. It does not matter. 1 minute you are watching 2 German soldiers with their hands up, shuffling past the line. The next, you notice it. Thick wool cloaks lined with something that might as well be dreams. Their uniforms look warm. Their boots look dry, and slung over their shoulders actual blankets, real ones. Soft, gray, clean, folded like someone back home still believes in dignity. You look down at your own blanket, if you are still calling it that. It is crusted on the edges, damp in the middle, and smells like a mixture of smoke, feet, and whatever your foxhole partner coughed up last night. It is not soft. It is not warm. It is a rectangle of damp sadness wrapped around a layer of disappointment. You wrap it tighter anyway, not because it helps, but because the alternative is letting the cold win without a fight. You were not issued a second one. Some guys were, some were not. Supply logistics in a war zone are like playing fetch with a dog that does not know you exist. You make do. You fold it double if you can sleep on half and cover yourself with the other, knowing full well it does neither job well. You stuff the edges into your coat to block the wind. You drape it over your shoulders during watch and pretend you are not slowly turning into a very cold statue of a very tired man. The Germans, though they came prepared. Some of them, not all, but enough to make you notice. You hear stories. Prisoners with warm socks. Layers, gloves that fit. Some even had scarves knitted by people who still had time to knit. You joke about asking them where they got it. Then you realize you are not really joking. It is not just about comfort. It is what it represents. Someone thought they mattered enough to stay warm. Someone designed their gear like survival was part of the plan. Meanwhile, you are wearing a jacket that fits like a wet paper bag and trying to fall asleep under something that feels like carpet from a condemned hotel. You start thinking about trading. 1 blanket for 2 cartons of cigarettes. 3 for a working lighter and a new pair of socks. You do not say it out loud, but you think about it. Someone tried stealing one once from a dead German soldier. Took the blanket off the body, rolled it up, stuffed it under his coat, carried it for a day and a half before someone caught the smell and made him throw it away. Turns out death clings to fabric. He said it was worth it anyway. Best sleep he had in a month. You start noticing the difference in the little things. German packs are better balanced. Their boots seem more waterproof. Their canteens have working caps. Their overcoats are heavier, thicker, made from wool that was not purchased in bulk by the lowest bidder in peacetime America. Some of their uniforms even have built-in liners. Yours does not. Your jacket absorbs moisture like a sponge, freezes solid by morning, and makes a crunching sound when you bend your elbows. There is a rumor going around about captured supply caches, cases of enemy winter gear, socks, blankets, overcoats. Someone swears they saw a guy from another unit wearing a German parka. No one knows what happened to him. Maybe he got sent to the rear. Maybe he froze to death with better fashion sense. Either way, you wish you had found it first. You are not angry. Not really. You are too cold to be angry, too tired to feel cheated. But you notice every time you pull your blanket tighter and your breath fogs against the inside of your collar, every time you lie awake in your foxhole, listening to the guy next to you go through another coughing fit, every time the wind slips through the seams of your gear and reminds you that the elements do not care which side you are on, only how prepared you are to face them. And you are not. You think about how much of your day revolves around temperature. Getting warm, staying warm, protecting warmth. Fire becomes currency. Dry socks become legend. A decent blanket becomes the dividing line between a soldier and a statistic. You trade your rifle for another layer some nights. You would trade your dog tags if you thought it would get you an hour of real sleep without shivering hard enough to shake your teeth loose. You have tried improvising, wrapping rags around your ankles, lining your helmet with spare cloth, stuffing pine needles between your jacket and shirt to trap heat. It is all guesswork. Some of it helps. Most of it just itches. One guy found a piece of tarp and wrapped himself in it like a burrito. He said it kept the wind out. It also trapped the moisture in. By morning, he was soaked through and steaming like a corpse on a grill. So you settle back into your routine. One blanket, one uniform, one long, unbroken conversation with the cold. You curl into yourself. You cover your face. You hold your breath to trap heat. You count the minutes until sunlight, even though it will not bring warmth, just visibility. You stop caring how it looks. You gave up on looking like a soldier about 5 days ago. Now you just want to look like someone who might survive the night. And when you hear the next round of artillery echo through the trees, when the ground trembles and the snow shakes off the branches above, you pull that blanket tighter, like it might do something. It does not, but it is all you have. The enemy has better blankets. You have a thin sheet of wool, a rifle that jams, and a hope that the snow does not cave in your foxhole while you sleep. Guess which side feels warmer. Tomorrow it starts again. You do not get used to the noise. Not really. You just learn to flinch quieter. There is no such thing as silence anymore. Even when it is technically quiet, there is always something humming underneath it. Your breath, your heartbeat, the faint rustle of someone shifting beside you, or the creak of branches overhead, groaning under the weight of snow, and whatever ghosts have not left yet. It starts with artillery. That is the main act. You never see it, but you hear it. Distant at first, like a cough on the horizon, then closer. Then all at once, a sharp whistle. A pause that lasts too long. Then impact. The ground does not explode as much as it disappears. Dirt and snow leap skyward. Everything shakes. Your ribs rattle. Your ears go dull. Someone next to you yells something. Or maybe it is you, but it is lost in the reverb. Sometimes it lands far away. Sometimes not far enough. You do not stick your head out to check. You just listen, count the seconds between blasts, and hope your foxhole is not next on the list. Sometimes it is. Sometimes the blast hits a tree. And then it is not just dirt raining down, but wood, ice, and metal from somewhere you do not want to think about. Then there is the machine gun fire. It does not echo. It snaps. Fast, repetitive, like someone slapping sheet metal with a sledgehammer. Bursts of it, usually in the early hours. Sometimes it is aimed at you. Sometimes it is aimed at a shadow no one ever confirms. But it is there, always there. The rhythmic reminder that someone somewhere in the woods is still awake and still angry. Rifles crack too, higher pitched, sharper. You learn to tell the difference M1, Garan, Bar, MP. It becomes a twisted language. You know who is talking by the tone of their bullets. Mortar whistle before they land. That is your warning. A quick descending wheeze like the world inhaling one last time. You duck before you hear the thud. If you do not, you might not hear anything again. One guy lost his hearing on day 3 and did not know it for hours. He just kept nodding like he understood, smiling when someone gave him rations. It turns out he thought they were asking if he needed water. Night is the worst. You would think it would be quieter, but it is when everything else stops that the little sounds come through louder, the shifting of boots in the snow, breathing the metallic clink of someone reloading, the soft scratch of wool gloves brushing against a frozen rifle barrel. You try to ignore them. You cannot. Then come the footsteps. Or maybe animals. Or maybe not. Could be a patrol. Could be nothing. Could be someone sneaking up to cut your throat in your sleep. You strain your ears until they burn. Holding your breath like that will make your hearing sharper. You grip your rifle tighter. You wait. Nothing. Still nothing. Then a branch cracks nearby, and you nearly piss yourself. There are voices, too. Sometimes in English, sometimes in German, sometimes half-heard, half-imagined. Someone yells a command in the distance. Someone else screams. Not a battle cry, not a cheer, just a flat, sharp scream that cuts through everything. It stops abruptly. That is when it is worse. When the scream ends too soon. Sometimes you think you hear crying. Could be real. Could be wind. Could be a guy 2 foxholes down trying to keep it quiet while he digs his fingers into the side of his face and pretends he is not falling apart. You want to help. You do not move. You stay curled up under your blanket, listening. Always listening. Sleep does not come easy. Not with that soundtrack. And when it does, it is shallow, twitchy. You dream in noise shells going off. Boots crunching, a voice yelling your name but not your name. You wake up gasping, hands clenched, ears ringing. You do not even remember what startled you anymore. The dreams bleed into the day and back into the night. One guy started hearing things that were not there. Said he heard piano music. Swore someone was playing Moonlight Sonata out in the woods. He was dead serious. Looked for him every night for 3 days. Then one morning he was gone. Some say he wandered off. Others say he walked into the trees and did not duck when the next shell came in. Nobody checked. You try plugging your ears. It does not help. The sounds are inside now. In your head. In your chest. In your bones. Even when it is quiet, your body is still bracing. Muscles tense, jaw clenched, like it is waiting for the next bang, the next yell. The next time someone shouts, incoming, and you all hit the dirt without thinking. Even if nothing comes, you do it anyway. The worst sound? Nothing. Total silence. When the guns stop, when the wind dies, when the forest goes still, like it is holding its breath, that is when you know something is coming. An attack, an ambush, or maybe just bad news wrapped in quiet. Because out here, silence is not peace. It is the moment before everything breaks again. You miss background noise, radios, traffic, people talking about things that do not matter. Here, everything matters. Every sound, every click, every cough, you analyze it like it is going to decide whether or not you die today. And sometimes it does. You try to joke about it. Tell the new guy his first artillery strike is like your first kiss. Unforgettable and usually a little wet. He does not laugh. You do not blame him. Nothing is funny after the 3rd or 4th concussion wave knocks the air out of your lungs while you are mid-sentence. So you get used to the soundtrack of this war. Not because you want to, because you have to. Because if you do not, it will chew through your nerves faster than frostbite. You learn to sleep through mortar, to eat through gunfire, to keep your hands steady even when the ground shakes and the air whistles like it is singing you off stage. But you never really stop listening. Even now, curled under your blanket, eyes half shut, ears half frozen, you are still counting the gaps between shelling, still cataloging every footstep, every echo, still wondering if that crack in the snow was a falling branch or the prelude to something worse. And the worst part is you will find out soon enough. Mail call does not come often, but when it does, everything stops. Even in the middle of cold hunger, and whatever fresh hell the sky is preparing to drop on you, a letter from home is still enough to pull men out of foxholes like it is payday. Not because you expect good news. You do not. You just want something. Anything that is not snow, bullets, or your own thoughts echoing around your frozen skull. The mail comes bundled in damp canvas bags, half frozen, half torn, passed down the line like a sacred relic. By the time it gets to you, it smells like fuel and wet wool, and the envelopes are creased in places that do not make sense. Sometimes they are already open. No one asks why. You do not want to know. Someone calls your name. Not your rank, not your nickname, your real name. The one you barely remember answering to anymore. You raise a hand, not too fast, and someone tosses an envelope at you like it is a ration bar. You catch it clumsily and stare at the handwriting for a moment before opening it. It is from your mother or your sister or the girl who said she would wait. Maybe she meant it. Maybe she did not. The envelope is thin. That is good. Thin means it is just a letter. No photos, no perfume, no pages of cheerful small talk you cannot relate to anymore. You unfold the paper. It has been written in a warm kitchen somewhere, probably next to a fire, probably with a cup of coffee nearby, and the sound of a radio humming something cheerful in the background. You hate how easy it sounds. You hate that they think it helps. They ask how you are doing. They hope you are warm. They hope the food is good. They say the neighbors are praying for you. They say your old dog misses you. They say they watched a newsreel about the war and that it looks cold. You stare at that sentence for a long time. The ink is smudged near the bottom. A tear, probably. You are not sure if it was hers or yours. You rub your thumb over it anyway. Like that will change the words. It does not. It just makes your gloves damp again. Some guys get letters with pictures. Kids they have not met yet. Fiancés in swimsuits. Girls smiling in front of palm trees. You would think it would help. Something to live for, maybe, but it does not. It just makes the hole deeper. You look at the photo, then look at your hands cracked, filthy, shaking slightly, and you realize that version of you, the one in the photo with a clean shirt and a smile, does not exist anymore. Some letters do not say anything at all. Just, we miss you. Just stay safe. Just come home soon. Like it is that easy. Like it is just a matter of catching the right train. You watch guys read their mail and start laughing. Loud, too loud. Then fall silent halfway through a sentence. Others fold the letters carefully, tuck them into their chest pockets, and do not speak for the rest of the night. Some guys rip theirs up before finishing the first paragraph. Too much, not enough. Who knows? Then there are the ones who do not get anything. They check anyway, every time, waiting for their name, hoping for something with a return address, anything, even a mix-up. But nothing comes, and eventually they stop checking. They just sit there silent while the rest of you read news from a world that is still spinning without you. You try writing back once, maybe twice. You scribble a few sentences in the dark on damp paper using a pencil that snapped 3 days ago and now leaves ghost lines on the page. You say you are fine. You say you are staying warm. You say you missed them. You leave out the part where you saw a man die last week trying to pull his body out of a collapsed trench. You leave out the trench foot, the rats, the cold that makes your nose bleed in your sleep. You just sign it. Love, your name. and hope they believe it. Some guys ride a lot, pages front and back every night. It is their ritual, something to do with their hands besides loading a rifle or tightening a bootstrap. One guy wrote his wife every day for a month, then stopped. No one asked why. No one wanted to. When mail does not come, it is worse. Not because you expected anything specific, just because the silence starts to feel permanent, like the world back home forgot how to reach you, like you are already dead and just have not gotten the memo. You tell yourself it is just weather, just supply delays, just logistics. But you know better. You know there is a reason the bag came lighter this week. There always is. Every now and then, a guy gets a Dear John letter. That is when it gets real ugly. You have seen it happen twice. The guy reads it once, then again, then does not say a word for a full day. The next night, he volunteers for a patrol, the kind no one comes back from. The next morning, they find what is left of him near the tree line. Shot, maybe by a German, maybe not. The letters remind you what you are missing. Family, warmth, dry socks, real food, a bed that does not collapse under your weight. But they also remind you how far gone you are, how much you have changed, how little of you still fits inside that house they describe with the window boxes and the kitchen light always on. That version of you died somewhere between the fourth missed meal and the third artillery barrage. What is left is just trying to stay vertical. Still, when the mail comes, you line up like everyone else. Even if you tell yourself you do not care, even if you mutter that it is just paper and lies, you still show up. You still hope. You still wait for your name to be called in a voice that has not cracked from cold and smoke. Because sometimes hope is worse than nothing, but not always. And tomorrow it will snow again. And someone will read a letter under a broken lantern with gloved hands, smiling like it matters. Because out here sometimes it does. You stopped smelling yourself 3 days ago. Not because the smell went away. It did not. It just blended into everything else. Like background noise, but worse. You stink. Everyone stinks. The whole unit smells like a wool blanket soaked in body odor, grease, cigarette ash, canned meat, and wet socks boiled into one thick, sour fog that follows you like a personal curse. Bathing is not just rare. It is not an option. It is canceled indefinitely. There is no shower tent, no warm basin of water, no soap, no privacy. You have been living in the same uniform for weeks now, and that is not changing anytime soon. If water touches your skin, it is because snow melted down your collar, or because you slipped into a ditch during a night patrol and did not scream loud. Enough for someone to fish you out right away. You remember showers? Kind of real ones with tile and hot water, and actual shampoo that did not come in a rusted tin. Now your version of a wash is rubbing snow into your armpits behind a tree and pretending that counts as hygiene. It does not. It just makes your pits cold and your shirt wetter. Someone swears you can clean your skin with a handful of sand. Someone else says rubbing alcohol works in a pinch if you can find any. You try not to think about it. You try not to touch your face. You try not to think about what is growing under your clothes. Your hands are black around the knuckles. Not bruised, just dirty, permanently. No matter how many times you wipe them on your pants, the grime stays under the nails, in the creases of your fingers, along the edges of your palms, like a second skin you did not ask for. The grease from the rifle, the dirt from the trenches, the residue from handling everything that has not been cleaned since last month. It is all there. You have stopped trying to scrub it off. Your hair is stiff, frozen mornings, oily the rest of the time. If your helmet comes off, it stays in the same shape as your skull. Helmet hair is not a joke out here. It is a lifestyle. You scratch your scalp and come away with something under your nails that might be lice, or might be just another reminder that you have not felt clean since you got off the boat. Beards have started to grow in. Not neatly, not intentionally. Just uneven patches of stubble and mess. You were issued a razor once. It got lost in the shuffle between Belgium and despair. Someone still shaves. No one knows why. Maybe it is a control thing. Maybe he just does not want to feel like a walking scarecrow. Either way, the rest of you look like the before photo for a hygiene campaign nobody funded. Your boots smell worse than your body. They have been wet for so long. They have developed their own atmosphere. When you pulled them off at night, if you dare, the steam that rises could probably be weaponized. You had stuffed a newspaper in them. It did not help. You have tried drying them by the fire. They caught smoke and absorbed it like sponges. Now they smell like wet fireplace and decaying leather. You still wear them. What else are you going to do? Underwear is a memory. Some guys have it, most do not. If you are lucky, you have one pair. So if you are not, you stopped thinking about that weeks ago. Your pants do all the work now. They are stained, soggy, crusted in places that do not need to be described. You have learned how to ignore discomfort that would have driven you insane back home. It is amazing what you can normalize when the alternative is freezing. There are no towels, no washcloths, no soap, unless someone was smart enough to trade for it back in town. And if they were, they are hoarding it like treasure. You have seen men trade cigarettes for half-used bars, not for the smell, just for the illusion of cleanliness. The hope that maybe, just maybe, you could rub the war off your skin for a few minutes and feel human again. The worst part is the itching. Not just from lice, not just from wool, from skin that has gone too long without a rinse. You scratch constantly. Your arms, your sides, your legs under the waistband, your back, wherever you can reach. It does not help. Just opens up more cracks, more raw spots, more places for infection to sneak in and do its quiet work. You try not to think about what is living in the folds of your body. You have got a red patch on your thigh that was not there last week. A rash on your neck that comes and goes depending on the weather. Your armpits are a science experiment. One guy says his feet smell like cheese. Another swears he is growing mushrooms. Nobody laughs. There was a stream once. Clear water too. Cold but not frozen. You thought about wading in, maybe rinsing your shirt, maybe splashing your face. Then someone pointed out the dead cow upstream, and the fact that it had been used as a latrine by the last passing unit. That was the end of that. Even if you did manage to wash yourself, then what? You would just be clean and wet, which is worse. Out here, being dry is more valuable than being clean. Warmth trumps everything. A clean man shivering is still a dead man. So you stay filthy, safe under a crust of dirt, sweat, and battlefield funk that doubles as armor against the elements. Sort of. Someone mentions a bathhouse way back behind the line, 3 miles or so. Maybe it is still operational. Maybe there is hot water. Maybe they are handing out towels and actual soap. You listen. You nod. You tell yourself you will go next time there is a rotation, but you will not. Nobody does. Because by the time you get there, your name is back on the roster for patrol. Or you are just too damn tired to move. And so you stay in your foxhole, wrapped in wool marinating in yourself. You scratch. You stink. You try not to think about the layer of grime you are carrying around like a second uniform. This is not temporary. This is standard. Bathing out here is not just canceled. It is extinct. You are not a medic. You did not train to be one. You do not wear the Red Cross. You do not carry morphine. You cannot tell a femur from a tendon. But that does not matter now, because the guy next to you just got hit and you are the only one still upright. It does not happen like it does in movies. There is no dramatic scream, no slow motion fall, just a sound, short, ugly, final. And then someone slumps over, groaning like they have dropped something minor. You look down, There is blood. A lot of it spilling into the snow like it is trying to soak the ground red before it freezes. You do not have time to think. You just move. You grab whatever is within reach. A scarf, a canteen, the tail of someone's shirt. Does not matter. You press it against the wound like pressure is magic. It is not, but it is all you know. The blood soaks through in seconds. You press harder. The guy grits his teeth and curses at you. That is good. He is still alive. You look around for a medic. Nothing. Maybe he is 3 foxholes over. Maybe he is already working on someone else. Maybe he is gone. Does not matter. You are it now. Your hands are shaking. You try to remember what they told you in basic. Pressure stops bleeding. Keep the wound above the heart. Do not let them fall asleep. You do none of those things correctly because nothing out here is calm, and the heart is wherever it wants to be. When a man is laid flat in the snow, screaming your name with half his thigh blown open, you yell for help. Someone yells back, "Get him under cover." That is a joke. You are already in a hole. The only thing covering you is thin canvas, snow, and the hope that whoever is shooting will not bother aiming low. You rip off your glove. Bad idea. Your hand goes numb immediately, but you need fingers that can feel, not mittens that smear everything. You reach for the bandage in his kit. Tear it open with your teeth. It is frozen. Of course it is. You warm it under your arm for half a second, then slap it down. Wrap it, knot it. Too tight? Does not matter. Too loose. He bleeds out. So you pull until he yells again. Better than silence. Someone slides over with sulfur powder. You dump it on the wound like it is magic fairy dust. No one knows if it actually works. You just know that people get mad if you do not use it. Then you check for exit wounds like you have seen other guys do. There is one lower worse. You wrap it too. There is not enough gauze, so you tear your own undershirt and shove it into the hole. Praying your sweat-soaked cotton does not give him an infection on top of everything else. You hold his head, tell him to breathe. He says something about his mother, then something about a dog, then nothing. You slap him. Not hard, just enough. His eyes flicker. He is still with you. Barely. You yell again. Someone throws you a morphine set. You fumble with the cap. Your fingers will not work. You jab it into his leg. Hope you picked the right spot. Hope you did not hit something worse. Hope it does not stop his heart instead of his pain. You wait. His breathing slows. That is either good or bad. You tell yourself it is good. Then you wait. It takes 20 minutes for the medic to show up. Maybe 30. You are not sure. Time stretches in moments like this. Every second is another argument with the bleeding. Another whisper to a man who might not be listening anymore. The medic says, "You did okay." Then he says, "Nothing else." Just keeps working. You are not needed anymore. You move away and sit with your back against the side of the foxhole. Your hands covered in blood, your gloves missing, your head empty. You do not sleep that night. Not because of gunfire, not because of cold, but because your hands still smell like iron, and you are afraid if you close your eyes, he will not be there when you wake up. It is not the first time, will not be the last. You learn that quick. When the medic is not there, you are. When the guy across from you takes a round through the shoulder, you are the one wrapping his arm in your only clean shirt. When the new kid trips on a piece of shrapnel and opens up his knee, you are the one who gets handed the needle and thread, not because you know what you are doing, but because no one else is left. No one talks about it later. They just nod at you. Maybe say thanks, maybe nothing. You do not need thanks. You just need to not puke when you see blood again. You just need to not hesitate when the next guy drops. The field gets run low. The bandages are reused. The alcohol gets rationed. You start carrying extras. Not because anyone told you to, but because you know how it feels to run out in the middle of a disaster and have nothing but a bootlace and some blind faith to hold a man together. You ask the medic questions when you can. What is better for bleeding, pressure, or packing? How tight is too tight for a tourniquet? What color means you are too late? He answers when he has time, which is not often. You start remembering things you never wanted to know. You have seen what untreated wounds look like, the infections, the swelling, the fever dreams. You know the smell. It is a mix of rot, sweat, and hopelessness. You cannot describe it, but once you have caught it in the back of your throat, it never leaves. That is how you know when it is too late. That smell. You are not a medic, but you are carrying a roll of gauze, a half-used sulfur tin, and 2 morphine cigarettes in your chest pocket anyway, just in case. Just until the next guy needs more than a bullet and a prayer. You used to think of medics as calm, professional, brave. Now you just think they are exhausted. Same as you, but with less time to be scared and more blood on their hands. You have not washed yours in a week, but the stains are still there, and you already know they are not coming off anytime soon. The guy who shot at you was not German. He was American, probably just as cold, just as scared, just as confused as you were. Does not make it better. Does not make it stop burning when the round snapped past your head and buried itself in the tree behind you. The only reason you are still here is because his hands were shaking worse than yours. It happens more than anyone wants to admit. Fog, snow, bad maps, no comms. Somebody fires a shadow, and then somebody else drops. You do not find out until after the dust settles and someone checks the tags. Same side, wrong target. It is not always gunfire. Sometimes it is artillery. You dig in deep. Radio says hold tight. And then 30 seconds later, your own shells start falling short. You hear the whistle, the boom, and then the shouting. That is ours. That is ours. Does not help. Shrapnel does not care about allegiance. The sky just got the coordinates wrong again. The lines are a mess. The front is not a line. It is a fog-covered suggestion. Units shift. Roads vanish under snow. An entire platoon gets lost in the woods and pops up where no one expects them. You hear footsteps at night, call out the password, and someone answers wrong. You hesitate. They hesitate. Somebody shoots. You find out the truth after someone is already bleeding. The snow makes everything worse. You cannot see more than 10 feet. The trees all look the same. Tracks fill in minutes after they are made. You start to wonder if you are moving in circles. Someone lights a cigarette, and the glow gives away your position. You all yell at him. He yells back. Nobody realizes you are yelling in English until it is too late. One of your own squads opens fire from a ridge. 3 guys go down before anyone realizes what is happening. Weather kills more men than bullets some days. Hypothermia, frostbite, pneumonia. Your breath freezes to the inside of your scarf. Your eyelids stick together when you blink too slow. You drop your canteen, and the water inside shatters. You try to piss, and your hand freezes to your zipper before you can even start. Snow hides things. Landmines, barbed wire, dead bodies, whole squads buried under a drift. You step off the trail and disappear up to your ribs in white silence, arms flailing, rifles slipping from your shoulder. Someone has to dig you out while you try not to scream from the cold in your boots. When you get back to solid ground, your foot does not feel right. It does not feel like anything. That is not good. Your coat froze shut yesterday. The sweat from marching seeped into the lining, then hardened overnight. You bent the zipper trying to get it open. Now it is stuck. You piss while kneeling. You sleep while racked like a burrito, with your arms inside your sleeves. You have not moved your shoulder right in 3 days. Does not matter. Still better than getting shot by someone who did not wait long enough for the password. There was supposed to be air support last week. A whole squadron, fighters, bombers, the works. They showed up late. Clouds rolled in. They could not see. They dropped a payload on the wrong side of the road. Nobody saw the funny side of it. One guy found a piece of the Jeep he used to ride and lodged in a tree trunk.